Hi there, my name is Luke Mahofsky and I'm from Synthesis, and I'd love to share with you something that I've been working on with my team. It's called a dependency diagram. So it's mainly used for planning. A dependency diagram helps you plan a complicated sequence of activities, especially when there's multiple people involved in that and there's a lot to coordinate that needs to come together. It's great for keeping track of things outside of your control. Here is a picture of a real dependency diagram, and it's got quite a bit of detail. But what you can clearly see is that there's many different tasks that come together. What's really great is that there's clearly defined places where you can see the work that's been done, and what's currently in progress is the yellow. And what's really effective is that you can paste the content, screenshots, animations, and even live updating Jira cards for tracking work items. The dependency diagram is a network of dots which are connected by arrows that show the dependencies between the items. And it really means that you can't finish something before you finish the items before it. Time goes from left to right, and it's very similar to a Gantt chart, except it isn't really tied to calendar dates per se, because time is relative. So items that are close together are implied to be happening at more or less the same time. We also use simple colors to indicate items that are in progress, completed, or still to be done. The diamond is used to represent the actual objective. The notation that we use for dependency diagrams is very simple. We've got green items that show work that's been completed, yellow items that are in progress, and items that are still pending or to-dos are shown in gray. We use a diamond for milestones and the objectives that we want to track. The notation that we use for milestones is to write a short description below the milestone, and then to write the name of the person who's responsible for achieving the milestone at the top. It's really great to be able to write due dates or any information that we already know about the milestone up front, but sometimes it might be quite vague. So it gives us a great place to capture all the important items that we need for stakeholders. Next up are the actual items in the dependency diagram. I sometimes call them blobs. So we also start by writing a short description of the task underneath the blob, and again we write the name of the person who's assigned to the task at the top. And it's really valuable to include other people that might be involved. So if there are multiple people, you just list them. And you try to make sure that the first person in the list is the main person to go to. And the rest would be included in the activities, but not necessarily responsible for completing the item. Over the years, we found that distinguishing between creative items and concrete items is very valuable, especially because creative items you can't predict how long they'll take, but concrete items you've generally done before and you've got a great idea of what might be involved. When you're unsure of who is going to be working on the item in the future, it's really great to use a question mark to denote that. All the items to the left of a milestone are assumed to be dependencies of that milestone. And this is really important to avoid spaghetti at the end of your dependency diagram, because you can leave out the links from the final blobs to the milestone because they are implied. The reason why we use dependency diagrams is that it's really great for lightweight project management. Coordinating lots of people is hard. This technique gives us a really easy and visual way to represent how people will need to interact to achieve an objective. Plans also change, and since it's a lightweight diagram, it's really cheap to draw, and more importantly, it's cheap to change. And by being able to collaborate on it using a tool such as Miro, makes it exceptionally effective at allowing us to achieve lightweight project management. The dependency diagram is very useful during different times of a project. Before starting, it's great during the proposal phase, when estimating the effort required to achieve an objective might be difficult. Doing this along with your clients is a really great way to capture the context and the knowledge that they already have. It's also great during the actual project execution, especially for getting continuous progress and feedback. We love using them during daily stand-ups, and it's really effective for helping everyone understand the context of the work items. Dependency diagrams are also great when planning for the medium to long-term horizon, because we can pencil in items that we know we will need to happen in the future, but we don't have all of the detail yet. And the dependency diagram gives us a really cheap and effective way to keep track of those items and make sure we don't forget them. So the question is, how do we start? Well, the good news is that all you need is a simple piece of paper. If there are many people, then a whiteboard is better because they can all interact with it. If you want it digitally, you could use PowerPoint. But the absolute best that I've found so far is to use Miro. And this is because it gives you the best experience in terms of being able to drop content on there while allowing everyone to collaborate. Next, we're going to start building an actual dependency diagram. And here's a short tutorial on how to do that. We're going to be working on the idea of how to make toast. And if you haven't seen Tom Wojciech's talk on YouTube, you might want to check it out right now. It's pretty great to see how to get people to collaborate in different environments. And this is my version on how to make toast. The first thing to do is to decide on the milestone. So the easiest way to get started is to create a template for the milestone and then to drop it on from the template library. I've created some example templates for you to get going with. Here's a more elaborate one with a few phases and a few milestones to get you going. Next up, we create the actual items in a similar fashion. I also suggest that you create templates for those to begin your diagrams. And you can use the functionality in Miro just to select the template I've given you, right-click and create the template item in your own personal library or share it with your team. Next, you want to edit your item by double-clicking on it and then double-clicking on the label again to edit the text. Don't forget to assign it to a person at the top. The really great thing about Miro is that you can very quickly duplicate items on your diagram by holding Alt and dragging. You could also obviously press Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V to copy-paste the normal way. When you're ready to start linking up the dependencies, you can use the connection line feature or press L on the keyboard, and you just link them up. Repeat the process until your diagram is done. Lay out the diagram as you create the items. Make sure that the items go from left to right and that arrows look neat. This really helps to keep the diagram much easier to read. Arrows should always leave the right-hand side of an item and enter the left-hand side. We found this over the years that it absolutely makes a big difference to the readability of the diagram. The final step is to actually use your diagram. Make sure to add on any useful content, for example the YouTube video link, and then you can start filling it in by changing colors. First we take out the toaster, then you take out a slice of bread. You put the bread in the toaster, and then you could adjust the lever for the duration of the toast, but you could always leave that step out. Then you pull the lever down on the toaster and it starts toasting the bread. It's really great to add on images that you could take screenshots of or photos on the Miro app on your phone. While you're waiting for the toaster to pop out, you could add more content. It's really great. And link it up. Miro is very forgiving, so even if you draw the lines in the wrong places or you get the timing wrong, it really doesn't matter. You just double click and edit it. In this example, you can see I'm moving the line as it's more appropriate for each task. When the toast pops out, enjoy the toast and maybe watch the movie. And that's the way that I make toast in a dependency diagram. When you're done, you could mark the milestone as green. And that's how you make toast using a dependency diagram. And now, just for some fun, I'd like to show you the evolution of this dependency diagram drawn as a dependency diagram. So it all started out many years ago when I attended a Master Architects class by Yuval Lowy. It was really incredible and I learned so much from him. The inspiration was from his network node diagram, which looks like this. I took this image from his latest book, which I really urge you to have a look at. This came out just recently, but it absolutely retains that content. What I found is that it's very comfortable to draw hand-rolled dependency diagrams on a piece of paper. Whiteboards are great too, as you can see in this example. We found that using PowerPoints for dependency diagrams also works really great for a digital way of doing it. The downfall is that it's very difficult to collaborate with others because you've got to email them around and merge them somehow, which is very error-prone and time-consuming. While I was exploring that, I even built several prototypes in different applications, and they didn't quite work as well as Miro does, but they did the job at the time. I found that using dependency diagrams during design sessions on a whiteboard is exceptionally effective at eliciting design ideas, and it's quite an interesting technique to try out in your next design session. Here's an example of how the team went through many ideas in one workshop. And what's really great is you can keep track of how one person came up with new ideas based on what other people were saying. And it's a really fantastic way to let go of ideas that you began the session with so that you can move on with your thinking. And you definitely can acknowledge where the ideas came from. I really enjoy design sessions like that. Finally, Real-Time Board, or Miro as it's presently known, came about, and that's where I built the first prototype of the dependency diagram. And I absolutely loved it. This has led to an absolute explosion of dependency diagrams that I've been drawing for various projects. Here's a snapshot of some of them. You can see there's an incredible amount of detail here, and it's quite interesting to see how real life actually takes you on this journey. If you're worried about the amount of detail and where that comes from, I must remind you that this is really just the complexity of how real-world projects go. It's interesting to see how we can use it for keeping track of our product planning. And this is the dependency diagram of the product we're working on right now. As you can see, there's many items going on in parallel. Some of them are small prototypes, others are bigger items we're putting into production. It's really nice to be able to use the content to show exactly where we are in the process. I'm proud to say that even some of our clients have started to give this a go, and they're also really enjoying it because it gives them that transparency. Don't forget that dependency diagrams start out very simple, just one blob at a time, and it's real life that takes you down these complicated paths, and it's interesting to look back on that and reflect on it. So this is where I'm at with the dependency diagram. I'm really excited to be able to share this with you on this platform. There's a lot of fantastic feedback that I've gotten from working with different people about it. And I'm excited to explore the usability improvements that we could add to this idea by integrating with the dev APIs and maybe adding custom components. I'd love to see what you come up with. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey to explore the world of dependency diagrams. I hope you give it a go, you try out some of the templates that I've given you, maybe you get some inspiration and try it your own way. Thanks a lot.